Hello everyone, my name is Bogdan Bulychev, and this is the most unusual test drive of all-terrain vehicles, Burlak, which we spent here in the Arctic within the framework of the Project Expedition, Russia 360. Buckle up, we're getting started. We rode on these very same barge haulers, many 1,000 km, setting a world record and becoming the first in history, our country, and generally the first in world history. We traveled across the entire Russian Arctic on wheeled vehicles. But that's not the point now. Now about all-terrain vehicles, Burlak. First of all, you must understand what's on this all-terrain vehicle. I have driven 14,000 kilometers behind its wheel to date. We rode in these barge haulers, cooked food, slept, stormed, moved around, went online, used it as an office. As soon as we didn't use it, and this machine, needs to be said, under all the stresses she experienced, she endured absolutely everything and brought us there, where we are on the very edge of the Arctic. These all-terrain vehicles were invented by inventor Alexei Makarov, our good friend. These all-terrain vehicles, Burlak, are now produced by Serena and are produced at a plant in Kurgan. Now the plant has expanded. And at the end of our expedition, they plan to produce up to 30 cars per month. This is a very serious indicator. How does this all-terrain vehicle differ from others? Conventional all-terrain vehicles? Well, first of all, this all-terrain vehicle is a production vehicle. He has a huge number of certificates, licenses, total. What allows this all-terrain vehicle to be? Well, let's say we use it in the state, procurement, or somewhere, and most importantly, this all-terrain vehicle has a lot of unifications and its unique details. From non-unique, there's not really that much detail here. And now, in the process of this review, I'll tell you about them. In general, this all-terrain vehicle is actually of an unusual shape. From the outside, it looks like a cube, let's say so, but despite their size, they are impressive. Just imagine its height 320 of us are in reserve. The spare tire is about 4 meters plus, width 290 and length 740. The mass of this all-terrain vehicle is about 4 tons. The mass of our all-terrain vehicle is fully equipped from a team of 5 people, more than 70. And this Colossus is being carried on Sparta. Now let's figure out why she does this. Well, first of all, of course, experienced drivers are behind the wheel. Well, the technology itself allows you to do this absolutely easily. Here we have a 6x6 wheel arrangement. It has a rear gate with a permanent drive. That is 4 wheels. 2 on the left and 2 on the right row, constantly, non-disconnectable. There is also a plug-in bridge and 3 locks. Rear gate lock and front axle lock. And when you turn on all this power, lock the wheels and you get a universal beast, which allows you, well, in our case, drive across the Arctic from Murmansk to Chukotka. In order to get into our wonderful barge hauler, there are several options. Of course, it's the central door, location on the left side. When you open it, you immediately find yourself in some company. Our Andre is there now. He is also a cook. He is also an assistant. He is also the head of society-related affairs. Andriuka is busy preparing lunch for us. Hello, Alia. And let's go further. The hauler has another spare door, which is located at the back. Depending on the configuration, it can be equipped with swing gates if... Do you have a cargo version? In our case, we have an expedition version. That's why we have a door here. By the way, she's frozen, but it works. When you open it, you get into the luggage compartment. Our luggage compartment resembles storeroom in the Museum of Antarctic Clothing. Mammoth tusk roots. Spare parts for all-terrain vehicle, meat in general, a lot of things, and it is really very roomy. The layout of the barge hauler implies placement and installation of different compartments inside the all-terrain vehicle. The simplest layout is what you have in itself, in use cabin, the wardroom, and further the large cargo compartment, area. Or you can have cabin company and a large residential module. In our case, the barge hauler is divided into 3 different sections. The rear of the car is equipped all kinds of additional equipment, which you can either install or not. In our case, we pre-installed all the equipment which is possible. Well, this is a standard tow bar rear part of the winch. Let me remind you that there is a winch here, and this winch works in both directions. That is, you can tell her, use both through the front of the car and pull yourself back. There are a huge number of shackles here, sockets for connecting trailers. But the most important device, which is here in our all-terrain vehicle, I believe, this is this mushroom screw. It has a hydraulic system. This screw goes down and allows this rover to float on water, and its speed is about 6 kilometers per hour. Of course, we never rafted it, precisely so that they don't lose sight of the view to use it. But our all-terrain vehicle has sailed into the sea several times. Wheel on Burlak. This is a huge element. He has the size of us, 1,750 by 720. And the size of this disc, can you imagine? 32nd? The weight of the assembled wheel is about 160 kilograms. The disc is about 40, but accordingly, you understand that the rubber itself is somewhere around 110. This wheel weighs 120 kilograms. In order to drag this wheel to the place where the barge hauler keeps his spare tire, well, I'll tell you, you need to make some effort in order to drag this spare tire here. The manufacturer states the following, and for this, it is enough. One person to lift a 660 kilogram spare tire 4 meters. Yes, friends, but not just one person. And one person, all-terrain vehicle Burlak, winches from a special device in the form of a crane beam. And with the help of all this, you can drag this wheel up. I confess to you honestly, of course, one person can do this, but it will be extremely difficult. Well, I would even say it's extremely inconvenient. So in order to drag the wheel up, 2 people are quite ideal. And it takes about 5 minutes. 7 minutes all wheels and equipped. This all-terrain vehicle has automatic inflation, which can be closed and opened like this here outside, and is also regulated air supply to each individual wheel for every left, right contour, even on a trailer from the salon, also with such a whole system. Cranes that are nearby and accessible to passengers. These are low-pressure tires. They are made here in Russia. And just think about it. The working range we drive on is from 0 to 4 atmospheres. Yes, 0, 0. 5, we had this rubber, well, in extreme frosts, below -40, and in warm, different conditions. At the same time, practically every night, this wheel would go down to 0. We pumped it up in the morning, and I waited for this rubber to finally die. But no, the rubber worked. The rubber works, and I think it will continue to work. The only thing this rubber is afraid of, you can look here at the protector. You can see here some small abrasions and cuts. Because this rubber has a very soft consistency. It contains a lot of rubber. This is the rubber surface, which moves on hard surfaces, albeit concrete, gravel, or asphalt. It wears off very quickly. That is, in 1,000 kilometers, it can be erased, drawing almost at 0. But it should be noted that the tires will still continue to drive on dirt roads, swamps, ice, sands, and all those places where there are no hard surfaces. I can say thanks to the developers of the all-terrain vehicle for this, who chose the right tires, definitely 5 tires. Here on the all-terrain vehicle, it's perfect. Now let's talk a little about the suspension, and it's unique in its own way. Well, first of all, it's an independent suspension, which immediately adds a certain comfort to the all-terrain vehicle. Of all the all-terrain vehicles in Russia, and in general probably produced in the world, I think this is the most comfortable all-terrain vehicle. You really drive like a cruiser. Our front suspension consists of 2 levers. The wheel is attached by means of a hinge due to the ball mechanism, and it is already attached to the final drives. That is, all 6 wheels have their own final drives. This is a copy of the BTR gearboxes, reduced and adapted for this all-terrain vehicle. But what's most interesting, what are these final drives? As well as about 80% of the parts installed on this all-terrain vehicle, made from developed the plant Burlaks, and are produced by them either subsidiaries or contractor companies, plant of the manufacturer of these all-terrain vehicles. Inner side, we have drive cardans from the all-terrain vehicle boat. The drive cardans go directly to the final drives, and here is this little, but at the same time, a well-coordinated system allows you to spin these 160 kilogram wheels and move, in our case, a 7-ton machine across the expanses of Russia in any direction. Well, just like in our 360-degree expedition, on each wheel we have 2 shock absorbers, who again, in principle, behave quite well, but now the manufacturers are developing it. Not just spring shock absorbers, and they want to make one of the shock absorbers with an air spring, which will allow you to adjust the shock absorber stiffness, loaded cars or unloaded, and then comfortable work. This all-terrain vehicle will be on the whole range, from workload, from speed limits, absolutely everyone, all ranges of use of this all-terrain vehicle. Now, of course, when loading, the all-terrain vehicle sags a little bit, and in some places even breaks through the suspension. But I hope, what about the installation of air springs this situation? The front part will be solved. Well, let's call it a giant face. This all-terrain vehicle has a really beautiful, and most importantly, functionally, symbiosis of brutalities. Good, understandable, beautiful lines, which create the shape of a barge hauler. The car, despite its straightforwardness, looks very brutal. Now let's run through, because it has it here. Manufacturer installs on a barge hauler regular headlights of the Soviet Union standard, which were installed on what only is not installed on lawns, on vases, and a bunch of all kinds of equipment. In principle, these headlights work at a C, and of course, they should be replaced with something more adequate. Lensed, but I think over time there will be demand, and producers will change this. The manufacturer also additionally supplies these 2-tone short beams, which basically overlap work of light at low beam. Well, and probably a little further than the near range the traffic light is working. That is, this is a near dash working light. Additionally, a large beam like this is placed here, but this is already at the customer's request. In this case, we asked to pre-install such a beam. In our case, it is a reef beam, which works on ultra-high beam. For us, it covers a huge range of its tasks. All-terrain vehicle consists of a single frame, and this whole face is one big boat. That is, it goes completely underneath, straight boat, without any protrusions. This allows the all-terrain vehicle to float. Firstly, this all-terrain vehicle has positive buoyancy. Thanks to this boat, it can go well through the swamp, on snow, and generally on all kinds of surfaces, which could affect the speakers. All-terrain vehicle parts. But let's say you go on a bridge, SUV. Then the main problem will be the protruding differential, bridge of the protruding part of the box, or something else that creates an uneven surface under your SUV. By the way, take a look and see. You will be surprised how much the bottom of your car is not as smooth as you think. Right here in the barge hauler, this is a perfectly flat bottom, which, well, in simple words, like a sled, it just lets you glide. And the huge 1,750th wheels rotate, push this car. On that surface, where do you move them and how often? Always pushing forward. Very rarely do you need to engage reverse gear to move back and accelerate, or with a certain amount of effort to overcome this obstacle. These 2 hatches are responsible for cooling the car, because all systems, including the engine and transfer case, the box and bridges are closed in the boat. They create excess heat, which needs to be cooled with something. So this car has 1 hatch, which cools the turbine intercooler radiator. Second, we have a hatch here, cools the entire system directly. That is, if we open this front hatch and the rear hatch, then we get just a blowing of the whole boat, from front to back, and accordingly, all 3 bridges end up here at once. Transfer case box. Well, and the engine itself, which allows the car not to overheat, well, or at least the car will heat up less under loads, during the passage, or during work in complex conditions. And by the way, at positive temperatures, when it's cold outside, then, in principle, we close all the hatches so that the car doesn't break down. The car also has an additional system. Cooling is these gills. They are also screwed with additional shields. And do not create air intrusion into the engine compartment. Under the hood, we have a Kamensk engine. This is a real 4-cylinder engine with a volume of 2.8 liters and a power of only 150 horsepower. But these 150 horses are due to the transmission. Due to the transfer case and the onboard ones, it is enough, well, practically 100% completely. Sometimes you want to add a little more power, but that's how they say it. That very moment when appetite comes during eating. Also, a manufacturer installs a fire extinguishing system under the hood, autonomous, which is launched by pressing a button, which is located on the panel, under the control of a passenger and a navigator, among other things. There are different air intakes provided here. Let's say you can make an air intake from under the hood in case of cold or some other bad weather. Or you can make a direct air intake from there. Sometimes we do a mix so that the air supplied to the engine was either warm or cold. Well, these are also all-terrain and off-road things, which are provided here. In all other respects, this is basically a standard engine from a Gazelle Next, which is installed here. There are no gas lefts here, and we have this old Raphael pen, which is lifted. Closes your hood easily. Then, with a light movement of the hand, we turn the clamps, and our hood is closed. From other unusual devices, here we have a pre-installed video camera like this, which is in the front and rear of the car. It starts up when reverse gear is engaged and allows you to see almost 360 around your all-terrain vehicle. All-terrain vehicles are also additionally equipped with flashing lights, orange beacons. This is necessary for that. To travel on public roads, let me remind you that the all-terrain vehicle is large in size, and to move it on public roads, you need to make a separate resolution. This all-terrain vehicle also has four-scale, by the way, controlled directly from the cabin, additional side light, well, some more additional elements which can be installed at your request. Let's say we asked to install a beam there. We asked to install side double light instead of single. That is, all these options are factory. He is accommodating and can assemble a set for you. A good model from another interesting option. And we heat the mirrors on the all-terrain vehicle. And there are several of them, like a truck. That is, the main large mirror, which shows the rear view, and the spherical mirror, which shows the view under the wheel, looks almost under the bottom of the all-terrain vehicle in order to see, is everything okay with you, and is there anyone or anything under the wheel interfering with your movement? Let's talk about tanks, about fuel and the consumption of our monster. Manufacturer claims consumption of about 30 liters per 100 kilometers. Admit, honestly, once I even got 24 liters per 100 kilometers, but we were driving on a perfectly smooth road, in high gear, almost coasting. Actually, in fact, the fuel consumption of this monster is in the region 45-70 L. That is, if you go on virgin soil like this, that after leaving the all-terrain vehicle, you sink like this, waist deep, into the snow, then this consumption is about 60-70 liters per 100. Your all-terrain vehicle will eat diesel, but under these conditions, he will continue lead you in the direction you need. The average consumption is still around 40 L here. What do we have on the tanks? We have two tanks in the back of the car. These are two tanks. One of them is about 170 lei. Second order 130. These rear tanks are combined with the main tank. The main tank filler neck is located in the front of our all-terrain vehicle, to the left of the front door. This tank is about 70 lei, located directly under the driver's seat, in the warmth, which allows the diesel fuel to flow. In diesel, already warm, so even after filling up your all-terrain vehicle, well, not Arctic diesel fuel, you understand that it is definitely not frozen. In addition to 3 tanks, which exist and are interchangeable with each other. Well, that is, you can do it from one tank, and from the second tank, you can pump it into the main one. We also have additional hanging canisters. They are located in the back of the car, exactly between the wheels. Here you will see filler neck. Now, carefully, so that we can get snow there. Didn't hit every one of those hanging canisters. We fill up with about 150 liters. And that's what we have with you. 300L hanging canisters, 300 Ls in canisters in the back, and 70 L here. That is, there are 670 Ls in this car. If we talk about the power reserve, well, probably somewhere around 1,000 kilometers, objectively plus minus. You can drive this car without refueling on all types of surfaces. Where can this car stay? Also, each all-terrain vehicle has these suspensions. Floats are needed for additional stabilization. All-terrain vehicle and its stability on water, we didn't use them. Well, more accurately, they used it, but we didn't really have time to appreciate them. Impact on the all-terrain vehicle, and how good does he feel on the water? Because in those moments when we were drowning, there was ice next to the left and right in front, which was still so natural. Additional means of supporting our all-terrain vehicle on water. Although an all-terrain vehicle, it should be noted that he held up well on the water. Also, on the right side, there is an interesting hatch on board. This hatch does not lead us somewhere to some room or in some compartment. Where are there any details? Is this a snow melter or an ice melter? Which is made here and it melts ice at the expense of natural heating from the car engine. Later through a special tap. This water can be used as technical water, but I confess to you honestly, for the entire period of operation, we used it once for the reason that I think it's not done quite right. And maybe the producers will see this review now, and they will fix it. But look here, the capacity of the snow melter itself, here it is, approximately like this. And its loading opening takes up exactly half of the snow melter. That is, if you fill it with snow, then it is half filled. When the snow melts, then the snow loses volume, but somewhere around there, well, probably 3/4 of its volume. And that is, from such a volume you get, this is such a small volume of snow, and to melt a full snow melter of ice, you need to do this procedure, for example, 10 times. And now let's go up there together to a height of 3 meters, and we will find ourselves in the cabin of our all-terrain vehicle. Let's go. The roof of our all-terrain vehicle is actually big, and one of its good advantages is that you can walk on it absolutely anywhere. There is no problem that you sell it or anything else. There are only 2 small compartments, approximately 1 meter by 1 meter. These are hatches. They are also emergency exits. For that, so that in case of any uncertain situations, through our all-terrain vehicle, we use them as regular ventilation hatches inside the cabin and the flow of natural air. Additionally, here on all-terrain vehicles we made such racks. The racks were designed and made by ourselves. We have 2 large Yaga boxes installed on them. By the way, boxes, interesting, because it is not a classic long box. This one is narrower. This is a wider box, which fits into itself. With a small overhang, the volume is much larger. In this case, in general, they are intended, in my opinion, for installation on pickups, so we installed them here, and the width of the roof allows it. Here, 290M allows you to see right away. 2 boxes we use. I think this box is for such small spare parts. All sorts of hoses there. Seals, cuffs. And this box is for freezing. Here we have both pelmeni and vareniki, and khinkali, and cheborechki, and pancakes from all over the Siberian gourmet. Very tasty. Otherwise, you can look at the neighboring barge hauler. There is also a beam there, which we use in case the barge hauler gets stuck somewhere, and we will need secure with a winch. And I also forgot to tell you about an interesting device, which is located above the snow melter here. If you look on the logo are about travel, then there is one like this above it. Black air intake deflector. So this is the black air intake deflector. It's nothing more than a deflector. Air outlet of our hood, which stands above the kitchen space. But let's talk about this with you when it's warm, because it's still cool in the Arctic, despite our cool equipment from Basque. It's time to move to warmer places. Make some tea, and we'll show you our space. All-terrain vehicle and barge hauler. Here we finally got to the most important place. In the all-terrain vehicle, the Burlak is the pilot's seat that controls the equipment. That's actually even true. A strange question arises. What is the correct name for that all-terrain vehicle, snow and swamp vehicle car, tractor that is, it really is some kind of large vehicle which you control from this very place. And it should be noted, what is ergonomics here? At first it seemed not very convenient to me, but as of today, I am constantly behind the wheel of this all-terrain vehicle every day, managing it 81 days. Can you imagine 81 days? I drive like 12 hours a day on this all-terrain vehicle. And now I can say that in principle, everything is ergonomically convenient for me. At first it seemed to me that I will use this armrest, which I have here. But in fact, it turned out that it is more comfortable to hold your hand on the handle, which opens left window, we start moving. I'll tell you right away about the controls of our all-terrain vehicle. Here we have everything classic. We have a 5-speed gearbox. The gearbox here on the all-terrain vehicle is from also Gazelle's next. She switches at the expense of the cable. There is no backstage here, there are ordinary cables. To be honest, then gearbox in this all-terrain vehicle, this is one of his Achilles heels, which he has here, this so-called childhood illness. This box is missing for such a powerful all-terrain vehicle. If we are talking about third gear, then failures. Gearboxes on this all-terrain vehicle are just in third gear. Here is the first one. Look, first tone, second tone. And no, she is very unique with him. That is, between first and second EE, just in terms of turnover, the transition is absolutely comfortable. But in order to move on, for third gear, you need to rev the engine almost to 1,000 revolutions, and only here switch to it. Overall, the box is normal. If you operate this all-terrain vehicle, not in difficult conditions, but in difficult conditions, of course, the gearbox is weak for it. By the way, we must give credit where credit is due. What plant? After our expedition, I received a certain complaint, and now on some models, a new gearbox and a new clutch are already being installed. Actually, the subordinate numbers on the box are already different. It has more traction from below. And these are the distances between gears that are more comfortable to shift, accordingly more comfortable for the car. The second Achilles heel of this car, this is his clutch. The clutch is here too, migrated here along with the box, as well as the engine from the Gazelle Nex. Well, it's a Gazan clutch. This is also weak. Objectively, he lacks it. And the car, but in difficult conditions, it eats up this clutch. Another interesting feature, this is the steering of this car. There is a hydraulic cylinder here, the so-called hydro transformer, tractor control system. There you see that the steering wheel is now level, but I'll turn left there. I'll turn it to the right. I'll do it several times, and now it's already blowing for me. I hold it straight, you see, and mine is like this. That is, the steering wheel doesn't have that very stop. It can constantly spin for a long time in one direction, long way in the other direction. That is, the system is simple. Turning there to the right side we have, so let's say in simple terms, the right one opens, oil supply valve, and our wheels are moving to the right. I'm turning left, pump pumps, opens left, turns right. That's why it's such a simple control system. A tractor type, which by the way is very comfortable here, and I must say that the steering wheel is on these huge wheels, on this huge all-terrain vehicle. Now you'll see which crossroad are we driving on. Here we are, just, let's spin here, across the tundra, and on the right side you will see us. The river is steep. Here we are now increasingly with changes here, increasingly I suppose, and at the same time you look at me, I can say that I can twist it with just one finger. Look here. Absolutely. I calmly turn to the right. I turn the all-terrain vehicle to the left. Well, of course, it's really simple. Without any stress, it is a very cool option. And the all-terrain vehicle is even easier to control than off-road. Further, if we speak, then we have governing bodies. Our transmission, everything here is almost classic. We have a lever that is responsible for lowering. Pressed it down, we have a reduction. Caught fire here on the panel turtle. This means that we have a working now low gear. I'll put on my glasses now. We have this here. It's snowing so much you can't see anything. So without yellow Palisade glasses, it's very problematic to travel, so I apologize. I will continue to ride with glasses. So here it is. Gear shift lever. Upstairs, it turns on for us. This switches to normal operating mode. We are currently driving in low gear. Here we have front axle engagement lever, down bridge turned on, back bridge front turned off. Now you can see we have 6-on-6 burning. That is, the front axle is engaged. We are driving with the transmission fully engaged. Lock buttons. That is, here. This is how we turned on the rear lock now. The gates turned on the front lock like this. And now all our wheels are locked. All 6x6, so you can turn it off. Here we have an additional cooling fan, which we turn on when engine temperature is overheating. Additionally, we have here a front furnace switching. That is, this is my part of the driver. This is our passenger navigator. And the rear compartment is a heated living module. We hardly use it because it's very warm in the car. So we have an interesting block located right in the middle. These taps are responsible for pumping up the wheels. This is the air supply valve, air bleed valve, tap feed to trailer, and this is autumn front, middle and back. Let's say I can block it like this, the front axle, and accordingly pump only the rear one. Or let's say I can open it in one, cover it like this. It turns out that the left side is blocked, and I can now pump up or deflate the right side, well or separately. Accordingly, do the same with each wheel. In this case, everything is open. If they are closed, then everyone will be closed. I can turn on the pumping system while on the go. Now you can see I'm driving right now. I have pumping going on due to the turbine. Let me remind you that this is in the download. Air comes from the turbine, according to the pipeline system of certain. And I'm pumping up here. You can see I can turn it off now. We've pumped up the pressure to 0 now. 3, and look, that here 3 is the pressure is only 0. 3. And now I can also press this toggle switch and release the pressure. Let's leave the pressure at 2 and 8 on it and move on. Here we have 2 planar area controls. The cabin planar, which we currently have on minimum. Planar of the salon of the sleeping module of the residential, where we have the sleeping places are equipped, and binary engine warm-up, so to speak, pre-start engine warm-up, in case we jam our car for the night. In order to launch, not cold, but already warmed up engine, battery charge. When we start here, we see the motorcycle hours. How much have we gone through? Here we have 2 EE electric tap switches. That is, we lowered it down like this. Let's turn off the taps, stoves. And our stove starts blowing cold air. And we also include a huge number of all kinds of sockets. We have it here. USB sockets, we already ordered all of that ourselves from the manufacturer so that he would provide us with all this and pre-install it. The radio is connected to the rear view camera. Front view cameras, that is, we turn on the reverse gear. Here you can see absolutely all sorts of things. All information. By the way, Oleg climbed into something to pour some water. Alyosh, where are you going? I thought I'd wash the wheels. Well, how did you wash it? Well, yes, additional radios can be installed. As in our case you have already heard, here we did it. The radio that we have installed here at the bottom. We have a Tanget hanging here. For convenience, we installed this module ourselves. I need him for this. There is a separate temperature sensor on all units. That is, here we have an engine and a gearbox, transfer case front and middle rear axle, fire extinguishing theme red button. There is a standard SOSGLONASS system. From additional, these are double glazed windows, prevents the glass from freezing during driving time during sub-zero temperatures. That is, our glass never freezes. 2 glove compartments. Standard glove box, which is located on the passenger side, just under the handle, where passengers usually stay. And here I have such a big one. Original box, in which there is a lot of everything. Well, so you understand, I have some snack chips in my stash here. There's something else there. There is Coca-Cola. I have a camera to take pictures of something right at hand. Well, and a huge amount of everything. Total include documents, numbers, and a bunch of other stuff. What can be. And it's all here, in a chest at hand. Here are the fuse control units. The headlight control unit is a standard Gazelle one. There is also a control unit. The rear screw is just a mushroom and a winch. They are located on the left side. The instrument panel itself has also completely migrated here. From the Gazelle, it is absolutely typical. There are 2 rows of seats, and located in one line. Such a classic cargo configuration. First seat we have. This seat is also from a Gazelle, I think. And, well, as far as I understand now, you can correct me in the comments, there certainly is seat. And simpler, but this is a seat that is adjustable in all planes. That is, a complete pillow, adjustable from top to bottom. The back is adjustable, the only thing missing is lumbar support. But I solve it by means of something like this. For a pillow like this, which also adjusts the height forward as I need, back up, down, and then we get fully adjustable seat in all planes. Like in an expensive foreign car. Well, of course, the control is only completely manual. Otherwise, everything is standard 3 pedals. Control levers. The car is actually very easy to drive. We've had her with us in different situations before. We stormed the mountains, moved along it at different angles. That is, the car has a high center of gravity, and in some places it rattles very loudly on such violent corners. A couple of times we hung it out like this, quite decently, that even in the salon it seemed that everything has already turned upside down. But the car, to its credit, always held up. Despite their critical creams, they certainly feel like that. Very noticeable, especially inside the cabin. But overall, it should be noted that the car always held up. I told you everything about car control. The car is really comfortable to drive. And when you turn back, then you understand that you are carrying a really huge one with you. A huge apartment. That's in our case. There are 5 more people in the car right now, and there in the back, the guys are just relaxing. Here we go. Moving on our trips, and we are with you now. Let's go. Let's park the car and walk around the car and look. What is there? What have we changed here? And what does it look like? A car in which you can, well, an all-terrain vehicle that you can use to travel around the Arctic. In our case, it's already 3 months. I must say, these 3 months were very comfortable. The moment we stop moving, we are moving to the next cozy compartment. Let me remind you that we call this place a campus, and a place to rest, and a meeting place for guests. Well, here we have a fold-out table. The table can be raised and lowered, but in our case, in an X-Print, in this variant, the table is always unfolded. We have everything here, as you can see. Everything is fixed, that is, everything is in its place, clearly. If we haven't secured something, here for example, like this jar, then during movement, she'll just fall. And if it is not fixed or not done properly, then it might break. We have a multi-cooker, in which we prepare our food. Of course, we have a coffee machine. Convenient capsule coffee machine. Threw in the capsule and closed, press the button, and the most delicious coffee is ready for you. We also have a thermopot, which always works in hot water mode. It has 5 liters. And if you need hot water, took a mug or brought a thermos and hot water, bring it, and hot water is always ready for use. Wait a second, there is an exhaust hood in the cooking area. Here we have spices, coffee, some cereals. Something else, we did this box already in the process of movement. We have salt in it, and there are some spices for eating right now. Snack on cookies accordingly. Gingerbread porridge. Down here we have a microwave, which we also use for that, to warm something up behind the driver's back. I have an organizer made here. This organizer has migrated to our first expedition vehicle and to the second exploration machine. From the cruiser here is a convenient thing. Here there is a fake we have if we go out somewhere in the zone. Where do we have polar bears or something? Here are the fake's signal flares. Everything is here. We have another fold-out chair here. Another soft back is being made, and we get a long, even bench. Where does everyone fit? And when we have a meal, 2 people are sitting on these seats, and the whole team sits down here, and it turns out that we sit down at the table. Additionally, we have this table. Another one module can be folded out, but we don't do that. Not very convenient. We've only used this a couple of times in all this time. We have 2 backpacks here. My backpack and the navigator's backpack are personal items. We need them if we arrive somewhere and get out of the car. You just unfasten your backpack. You have a computer there, tablet, panties, socks, something if you need to wash. If there is such a possibility, soapy, documents and such, what you need to take with you. This is such a duty backpack, unfastened, took it, and can go out with it right away. Each of the participants There are the same duty backpacks for these places. And here we have additional shelves. There are completely different things on the shelves. 12-volt USB cigarette lighters. We installed socket modules. 220 volts pilots are standing here in our zone. Each shelf stands in the kitchen under all the equipment, and in the rear compartment, that is, we made a huge number of 220 sockets, which can be turned on and off, work as one, and separately. Here we have first aid kits place for charging equipment. That is, there are cameras there, drones. Some of these are charging right now. What do we have? An accessory? Someone's trimmer. There are hooks like these. They are convenient because they don't get in the way when in a complex form. You won't hit them if you need to hang some opened and hung up a few jackets or something else unnecessary. Closed. They don't hold the magnet very well. Let's move on. Further, we have the residential module. The residential module consists of 4 sleeping places. By the way, I forgot to tell you, what are the extras? We have 3 sleeping places in the front company. There are fold-out seats there, and it is also comfortable on horizontal surfaces. 4 people can sleep here, but if necessary, there can still be a 5th on the floor, and 3 people in front, and so we have 8 full-fledged ones. Horizontal sleeping places, full length. Every person has, accordingly, its own individual. The shelf is very reminiscent of a railway shelf. You can sit on it. There is more than enough space here. Here I am sleeping on the top bunk, respectively. There are separate systems like this here. Backlighting. They are controlled by the main switching unit, and each of these modules can be turned on and turned off additionally. Everyone has their own individual hooks. Everyone has their own shelves for some personal little things. Let's say I have it there. What's on the shelf? Here lies the TV remote control, which is located right here. There are systems for connection here. There we put some kind of hard drive here. And here in general, we look altogether TV. Here we sewed these modules, which are attached to the wall of each participant area. They store unnecessary things, so that there wouldn't be any of these. We have standardized all the different bags. That is, in ordinary bags, we brought things here, transferred them into these modules in these bags, sent theirs home. They come to us in these. In case of anything, we unfasten these bags. And in these same bags, we will send things further. Drawers, we have them mounted on regular ones, on ordinary clips like these. So you can unfasten it like this. Pull out this drawer. He is supposed to be here. Look, strategic stock of doshirak, canned food. Here we have, the chum salmon is coming here. And here we have fruits and vegetables too, very conveniently, because everything is at your fingertips. Everything is warm. And what's most important, accordingly, because everything is warm, then the same fruits and vegetables, all this moves and does not freeze. And if you paid attention, we have EVA rugs everywhere on the floor. Standard equipment. It will be just a regular plywood floor EVA mats in the first place. Dampen excess noise. Secondly, they are very comfortable. They collect all the dirt in their honeycomb. You know, there is water there and that you took it easily, knocked it out, and there are no problems. Under these rugs, we have hatches. And you can open the entire boat. And here we have the middle rear axle. All cardanes, we can service absolutely everything. As for heating everything, this is our big farm in the barge hauler. We have here autonomous planer. Well, you can install a dispatcher. You can put a planer, can be put in a basu. Here is one that is drowning our rear part, the rear compartment. Including residential module. There is a standard stove here, which is heated by a cooling system. All-terrain vehicle, and in the front part we have another planer is installed here, which heats the cabin directly. Besides everything else, we have standard 3 stoves, which are basically enough. Mild frosts. Our whole system, only energy supply. Here it turns off thanks to this big switch. That is, this is a big system. So we have 2 working at once, so only the second battery. So 1, and that's how he is in general. You see the whole world went out completely. Well, that's the main advantage. I think you noticed that I walk here absolutely in full height, and having height 182 centimeters, I can move absolutely calmly. I bent down a bit before entering here, and then I also walk at full height. This is probably one of the main advantages of this all-terrain vehicle, because you really feel like you're in a camper, like in a motorhome. and you can move comfortably between different ones here. These are the zones of space. Accommodation in an all-terrain vehicle, which is a driving company here. Recreation area and storage room dash terrace. That's roughly it, in 2 words. Now let's open a Kala with you. Front and middle compartment. We won't open the back one. There we will need to pull out the boxes, but in advance, so that you can evaluate and see what does it all look like. And inside, if we need to carry out repairs in the field. Let me show you the first compartment first. This is the compartment where we store spare parts. Let's say we have a ball joint here, you see. Here we have the old clutch was removed, so as not to throw it away. Here is also an old disc. There are no such lockers here at all. There are several in the car, 2 in the front, and there are 2 more such chests under the beds. We have final drives in them. Here we open with you. Such hatches. We'll get to you right away. Into our boat. Look here, we have the distribution box. The cartons fit it. And here, if you look to the right, there we can see the middle bridge. And we also have a tank located here. Propeller hydraulic systems. This way we have access to the engine. Engine, gearbox, and all. We still need access. The engine still needs to be removed. I won't do this module now because we have a radio attached to it. And there is access to the engine at its rear. Additional, as you remember, we have engine access from the hood. And we can open the entire boat and do maintenance or some kind of repairs without leaving the car while being in absolute warmth. This is simply the best whim that the barge hauler gives us. I must say we used it periodically in the Arctic. Very convenient and comfortable, and you begin to appreciate these moments. Man. Well, friends, came to an end our review of the Dash aka test drive of the all-terrain vehicle Burlak, and you saw it all yourself. I think you will draw your own conclusions. I definitely made mine. And now the main question arises. How much does this all-terrain vehicle cost? Well, at least that's how much it cost us. So here it is. Each of these all-terrain vehicles in the basic configuration costs around 15 million rubles. Additionally, with all the equipment we have, they installed it in these all-terrain vehicles. Every all-terrain vehicle is worth it now. 16 and a bit, well, let's say 16, rounded up to 16,160,000. Is it a lot or a little? I think each of you draws your own conclusions, but I know for sure that this is the same car which allowed us to be the first in history to pass the entire northern sea route from Murmansk to Chukotka. No all-terrain vehicle has been able to repeat this before, and I have no doubt that no one after us will be able to repeat this. So if we talk about the car, which can be lucky, and most importantly, it gets you from point A to point B, then this car coped with the set goals and objectives. I would buy it for myself, a similar expedition again, such a car. I know all its pros and cons. Yes, I would buy it because there are no analogs on the market today, which can also travel around planet Earth. Bogdan Bulychev was with you, Travel Channel, and an honest test drive and review of all-terrain vehicles, Burlak, straight from Arsika. Good luck to you and all the best for now.